Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Bolten, Vice President of Strategic Development for Zixi. For those of you that don't know us, we are about a 12-year-old company and known in the marketplace and synonymous with high-quality transport of video over the open internet. We've morphed for a long time and have developed quite well into a number of OEM partners and service providers and end-user clients that would most likely be represented in this room or otherwise. Certainly your clients would be our clients. Just to set the table, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Zixi is so I can put it into context. We're going to talk about two different case studies, one with the national network doing a number of sports broadcasts, and the second in a new sort of 4K origination for News Corp on a new launch service, which has been announced. But all of these things are in production, just remaining anonymous. But we're talking about real-life examples of OTT distribution and its implication on terrestrial distribution in general. Certainly we, Zixi, we're not a VOD company, we're a live linear company. We do live linear streams, we do primary contribution to folks like Amazon Prime. We also do live events and have been doing some of the highest profile live events for years in the marketplace, including things like a UFC. And as you will talk about, we get into the Olympics, into World Cup, and into things like the Super Bowl. I've been on panels with such as this before, and I remember 3 years ago people were saying to me that tier 1 content like a Super Bowl will never be going over the open internet. It won't be on IP, it's going to be in all fiber. And what's morphed into this story is Zixi excels in an unmanaged network, but mixing managed and unmanaged networks, mixing on-premise and public and private clouds is becoming critical. As everyone in here, including our good friends who just won numerous awards, we have major players such as Amazon, Microsoft, and Google that have entered into the infrastructure marketplace, and all of that is impacting both the content selections, the ability to produce and distribute, and everything that an audience has available to them, particularly in monetizing as we get towards ATSC 3.0, preservation of SCUDdy markers, things that are technically boring but very important for commercializing and making money on the service. We sit here and we push to CDNs, we push to the OTT services themselves, and we touch a number of endpoint devices that you would use if you're going to cable head ends or MSOs or the like. What we've introduced, and we are a software platform, is something that's kind of new to the industry in defining it in broadcast stream management. We have an abstraction control plane layer called ZenMaster, and what this allows for is there are numbers of ways to manage very technical workflows, and as you get into these multiplicity of cloud environments, both public and private, and across networks, and more importantly, across partners, the supply chains have gotten very, very difficult. You need to democratize the ability to control and manage that. So ZenMaster allows master control folks, digital NOC folks, talk folks, to be able to control and orchestrate, monitor, and analyze, in particular things like root cause analysis, which is a very expensive industry problem, and be able to deduce and understand very quickly, instantaneously, both within their systems and between partner systems, and then allow to engage engineering staff, which are 4 times the cost as needed and in a proactive and concise manner. The important part is that broadcast television has always been difficult, but OTT distributions are much more complex. They involve affiliates, they involve different partners, they may involve multiple infrastructures, and then they have to be processed, and then they have to be pushed out on a global basis. Getting a complete end-to-end supply chain view to that has been critical. And in the 2 case studies we're going to go through in 1 second, one of the major attributes was having a system like this. Both these customers, who are going to remain unnamed and are in this great city, required this type of a system so that they could deploy at scale, they could operationalize it, and they were going to do everything from cut off satellite to be launching brand new content services with a differential quality of experience that was noticeable by the consumer. So our first study is a very large network that we would know, and if you're going to push out and get things to, we will say, to the ultimate digital MVPD, which is a terrible acronym, but we're kind of stuck with it, you're going to go to a Hulu and Amazon Prime, a Fubo, and that of the like. You don't take a national channel. You have to take a regional set of affiliates. So we were acquiring hundreds and hundreds of affiliates from around America's regional market. From there, we would do the contribution or ingress into the cloud. That then gets managed across the cloud and controlled by master control. At that point, you have to go prepare all of that streamed and live content to then go on to the ultimate consumer. So that means to going to folks like DSS, iStream Planet, our good friends that were formerly New Lion and now Endeavor, all of those types of services. And there are software providers that are going into that space. From there, you then distribute again and deliver off to the service provider who will go back to the CDN and geo-block. And this allows you to complete the loop, maintain the advertising circle, and most importantly, keep a very, very high quality of service. One of the interesting things is when streaming first came about in OTT, there was an audience expectation that it won't be that good, it'll be okay, a little blocky. And that has definitely shifted, and the intention now is that that service should be up even more so. I want it to be perfect as I move from my laptop to my phone to my smart TV in my kitchen. And all of these things need to be seamless and perfectly orchestrated. So I would say that as a proof point for all of us, having hit Super Bowl, World Cup, and Olympics in 1 year, and we're about to do the Women's World Cup in 4K coming up in a couple of weeks, this is definitely no longer a forefront trend, but is a legitimate mainstream trend and is where all the broadcast dollars are going to be following. On a secondary part, and this is another interesting kind of advanced company in terms of how they engage their consumer, watching what we're seeing with compression techniques like HEVC, we are taking 4K origination, pushing it into a cloud, into this case just showing representatively AWS and Azure, but technically it's AWS, Azure, and Google. Those will continue, but I'd say that's your three main horses right now. All of this orchestrated by our Zen Master, and we're able to do one generational live transcoding. Very difficult process. Live transcoding, for anyone in this room understands, a lot different than trying to do a VOD file. I'm not saying that transcoding is easy in any way. But from there, you're able and you have the flexibility to be able to push out to any of the CDNs that are the correct one for a given region. You're also able to deliver directly into other things like Fire Sticks and devices in Roku. And ultimately, with this single and noticeably different improvement in quality, it opens the door for universal origination that's going to allow you to then take that one contribution signal and point that out in multi-point distribution to all your IRDs and MSOs. So this is where you're starting to blend the workflow between what was separate with OTT and what is combined within the MSO world and have a unified strategy that allows you to spin up channels very quickly, leveraging a common infrastructure and getting real return on investment as satellites get pulled off for 5G, OTT service start to open up more, and I think you see even the trend in ESPN, had said it in the Wall Street Journal last week, you're gonna have primary broadcast content, but you're gonna have ancillary, additional, and differentiated programming coming on these digital services. All of this is able to cast a wider net towards audience engagement. And just wrapping up, to summarize those two use cases, you can see that there's a very large ecosystem acquired, and Zixi has managed to get itself into over 50 of the encoder-decoder pairs, all the different service providers and clients, which just gives a ton of flexibility in terms of how you can manage that supply chain, whether it's an OTT use case or terrestrial distribution. Thank you very much.